Hey, how many times do I have to tell you kids to stop worshiping our dog? Scatter!
Oh crap, you can see the wall. You're not supposed to see that kayfabe. It's not supposed to be there. Hello everyone. Welcome back to Let's Talk with Tom. My name is Tom, and you're watching the Roundtable. And today we're going to talk about Craig of the Creek, which is a show that's on Cartoon Network. I think it's on actual Cartoon Network, or it's on the app, or I don't know. Cartoon Network has been kind of weird lately. It's confusing. I think it's affecting the performance of their shows. But that's a topic for another video. That's not this one. But the topic I want to just touch on real quick as an introduction, that's how we're starting this off, is that, we all come across people, whether it be our friends or our family or other people in this community, who are like, cartoons when I was a kid, they're so much better than now. Now cartoons are just dumb. Teen Titans Go is a thing. Powerpuff Girls reboot. Ben 10 reboot. It's all out there. It all exists. It's not like there are shows like Star vs. the Forces of Evil or OKKO or Milo Murphy's Law or even Steven Universe. But here's the thing. Craig of the Creek might be the show to shut those critics up. It might be. You know why? Because it's about being a kid. It's not about necessarily being a kid in 2018. It's about a universal type of childhood that I hope the kids still have today. But it's a childhood where kids are going outside and they're playing and they're interacting with each other and they got smartphones. Because, that's why they invented smartphones. Was because, honestly, I think my generation, maybe not my generation, but, the kids right after me, they probably had, the worst moments of, oh, yeah, we don't go outside. We just stay inside and play on the computer. Because, not everyone has a smartphone for a while. Now we have smartphones and we can go outside and not fully appreciate nature because we're on our phones. It's beautiful. I'm not trying to be a cynical old person, but that's just kind of the tone I took when I wrote this for some reason. Go outside, everyone. Go outside. That's the message for this video. Go outside. Right now, as of recording this, it sucks outside. It's cold. It's not fun. But by the time this comes out in a week or two, it should be fine. There's a lot going on with me. I might have a mental breakdown during this video. Focus on me, alright? I'm the only one here. I'm alone in a void where I do this show. It's just, it's a realm between realities, okay? This isn't a house anywhere. It's just, don't think about it. Don't think about it. Just stay immersed. Stay immersed. The best way to keep someone immersed in whatever you're doing is just tell them to be immersed. That doesn't break the immersion at all. So Craig of the Creek is about a kid named Craig, and he's black, and that's great, because we need more diverse protagonists, and that's been a big discussion. That's been a big discourse in the community around this show, is they're like, oh, it's forced. He's black? Really? Why is he black? He doesn't need to be black. And it's well, why does he need to be black to be black? Does anybody need to be black? Does anyone need to be any race? White ain't just the default, but that's a discourse I'm not gonna talk about that too much in this video, because people have already talked about that. There are plenty of videos about Craig of the Creek on YouTube that you can go and watch, and I'm not trying to make it so it's the same exact information as those videos. I'm trying to make this some spicy, fresh, interesting content for you, because that's what you come to this channel for, unless you don't, in which case. So Craig, the main character, he goes to a creek with his friends and he interacts with other kids. It's like a whole community of kids, and it's all diverse, different types of kids. You have different groups. You have the 10 speeds, which realistically, when I was a kid, I probably would have been with them because I was always riding my bike around the neighborhood. I should get a bike. Maybe I'd be less depressed if I had a bike to ride. But also, I ain't got bike money. But you got this whole diverse group of kids, and they all meet at the creek. This is where they interact. This is where they get their social skills at that age that they're developing. And I like this show, and I think a lot of people like this show, because this whole dynamic, this whole thing going on, it reminds them of when they were a kid. We've had enough shows just about kids going to school. Yeah, I mean, I've said before in my video about Recess and 16, where I'm like, yeah, when you're a kid, your life kind of revolves around school. But that's not as true when you're in elementary school, because elementary school is easy. It really is. It doesn't start to consume your life until you get to about end of middle school, definitely once you get to high school. But when you're in elementary school, it's mostly about what happens after you get out of school. It's what you're doing with the kids in your neighborhood and all that. Like, it really is just your neighborhood. It's your neighborhood and whatever you have where you get to meet up with all those other kids. Because I think everyone had some sort of a creek growing up. And I'm not necessarily meaning a literal creek. It might be a literal creek, but it might also be, you know, a playground, a park, a field somewhere, a basketball court, someone's house. It was something. Everyone met somewhere. And that place is like your whole world. Because when you're a kid, you don't have any freedom. Maybe if you're like rich or something, but even then, maybe not. If your parents are paying attention to you, then hopefully you're not just like, yeah, I'm 8 years old and I'm gonna go to Europe this weekend by myself with me and my butler or whatever, because that seems irresponsible. But there was one episode in particular that I kind of want to mention in relation to that whole topic. For context, let's mention Craig's family. He's got a younger sister who's like really smart, watches stocks on TV, which is like, okay, you're like 6, whatever, okay. He has an older brother who's in high school named Bernard, and he's like, they have like a brotherly relationship. Like, he really doesn't like Bernard, and Bernard doesn't like him, but it's like, it's framed in a way where it's like, you as the audience, you're not supposed to necessarily dislike Bernard because of it. It's just kind of like, okay, that's his brother, so they fight. Which I think is really interesting, because even though his family often acts as like the opposing force, it's never done in a way where you feel like you have to dislike his family members. It's always done in a way where you kind of understand, like, his brother, his sister, his parents, there's nothing wrong with them. They're not bad people. They're actually pretty good people, and they're actually pretty likable. But you gotta have an antagonist, and sometimes antagonists are the people you love. So that's just kind of how a cookie crumbles. But what I was saying was, there's an episode where Craig gets home with his sister, and he doesn't have his key. She doesn't have the key that she's supposed to have, so they can't get in the house, and he's supposed to drop her off before he goes to the creek. But then he's like, oh, well, I can't just not go to the creek. Like, I'm 10 years old, every day is important, the creek is my world, my life, my everything, I can't just not go. So he says to his sister, you know what, let's just come with me to the creek. And at first she's like, I don't want to go to the creek. And he's like, you know, some kids can't afford to go to the creek. And at first I was like, that doesn't make any sense. It's just a natural landform that you just go to if you live by it. And I realized he's not talking about the people who live there. He's talking about, like, the kids where maybe they live in a place where there aren't any other kids. They don't have that sense of community. They probably live, like, around a bunch of old people. And even if they do have that sense of community, sometimes you live in the city, and it's like there isn't really a place to go. Like, you just kind of go out in, like, an alley somewhere and kick rocks or something. I don't know. I didn't grow up in the city. I grew up kind of, like, in between the suburbs and the city. But we still had some stuff. We still had parks. But, yeah, he's like, you know, not everyone gets to have this kind of a childhood, and this kind of childhood is really precious, so you need to appreciate it. Like, you gotta appreciate the fact that you live somewhere where there is a community of kids. There are a bunch of kids who live near here, and there's also a place for you and all those kids to meet and interact and talk and just be a kid. Not everyone gets that, and I think that's what he meant when he said, like, not everyone can afford to go to the creek. Or maybe it was a stupid joke and I'm reading too much into it. So Craig of the Creek doesn't really have an overarching plot, but it has isolated narratives in every episode. And those are engaging narratives, and it's consistently pretty good. And most of the narratives are spent developing the characters, developing the world that is the creek. And it's great. And I think some of the best episodes are when they focus on Craig's friends JP and Kelsey. A good example of this is the episode Tag, where they tell us how there's been a game of tag going on like forever, as long as anyone can remember. And it's like we've all played tag when we were kids. We know how it works. You get tagged, you run around, tag someone else. But it's like a long form version of tag where it's like you get tagged and you might not tag someone else for like days. And you gotta like look for your opportunity to tag someone. And as a result, whoever gets tagged often has to be isolated to some extent from their peers. And they just kind of gotta deal with the fact that they were tagged and find a way to tag someone else, and they can be re-entered into the social society that's the creek. But what happens in this episode is Kelsey gets tagged, and they actually kind of explore the empathy of it, where they mention like earlier in the episode how she lives alone with her dad, and how every day she comes home from school and there's no one there. And it's kind of like, it is what it is, but it's kind of sad that she has to deal with that. And then it kind of ties into her feeling isolated because she got tagged. And then anytime she goes to tag someone else, she can't do it because she's like, well, I've been dealing with this same kind of thing for so long, I don't want to subject someone else to it. And it's like that's a really powerful statement. And it actually makes her and Craig and JP, they want to end the game because it's causing people to feel like they're outcasts. I know that might trigger someone to be like, oh, these SJW showrunners, they come from CU Universe, now they're making it racist to play tag, or some stupid statement like that makes no sense. But it's like, this is a very specific circumstance here. When I was a kid, when we played tag, it was just whoever got tagged ran and tagged someone else, and then it would be done as soon as the bell rang or whatever happened. It's like, it would end. This is never ending. This is whoever's it is labeled as an outcast. They're using it specifically as a vehicle to discuss the narrative that they want to discuss. Talking about what it feels like to be alone, talking about all that stuff. There's nothing wrong with tag. And also, it's just exaggerated to an extreme, just like everything is in this show. In fact, I really like how they talk about all the stuff that's happening like it's so serious, but they also take it back to reality sometimes and acknowledge how stupid it is, because even though it's stupid, as a kid, it still really means a lot to you. Some of the stuff when you were a kid that would happen, that would get you really upset, doesn't matter. Like if someone broke a rule in kickball, it doesn't matter. Kickball in and of itself is a pointless game. You're just kicking a ball. I just really like how they kind of deal with the perspectives on the topics that they choose to discuss, because a lot of the times it doesn't really matter. Like, it genuinely doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you get to go and throw water balloons. It doesn't matter if you get to go to the creek one day. It doesn't matter. But if you're a kid, that stuff is like the most important thing. That's your number one priority. And there's nothing wrong with that. It means something to kids. If you're that age, if you're that age, it means something to you. And that's valid. But once you get older, you kind of start to realize how little it actually matters and how little everything matters. Actually, just paying your bills, it doesn't matter. Paying taxes, none of this really matters, essentially, because one day we are going to ascend beyond our physical forms and become one with the universe. And at that point, it won't matter. Go outside and have fun. That's all I have to say. Thank you for watching Let's Talk with Tom on the Roundtable, but Tom isn't just on the Roundtable. I have my own self-titled personal channel. I have a Twitter, I have an Instagram, I have a Snapchat, I have all that good stuff. In fact, I even have a Tumblr. So, if you're interested in any of that, check that out, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!